The Indian government has cleared a bill that will make the practice of Muslim men uttering the word talaq 3 times for an instant divorce a criminal offence. The Muslim women bill comes after the recent Supreme Court verdict banning instant divorce. The bill proposes a 3-year jail term for guilty husbands. It will be introduced in Parliament and the government intends to get the statute passed in the current winter session, which began today. It's the big story coming out of India. The government has cleared a bill that will make the practice of Muslim men uttering the word talaq 3 times over for instant divorce. It's a widely practiced situation in Islam, and remember, it's the government is now thinking of making it a criminal offence. This bill comes after the recent verdict from the Supreme Court which banned the practice of instant divorce. The bill proposes a 3-year jail term for anyone found guilty of abusing the divorce practice. My colleague, WION senior correspondent Raghvendra Rao joining me on the phone line for more on the story. Raghvendra, the fight against Triple Talaq therefore just being taken a step further.
Absolutely, Aisha, and the government is going full steam ahead with this particular move. Now, the winter session of Parliament has just commenced today, and the government intends to bring in a bill which will criminalize the practice of instant triple talaq. And to make that happen, the bill was put up before the Union Cabinet today, just a while back. And the Union Cabinet has accorded its approval to this proposed legislation. Now, the bill is basically called the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Bill, and it will adjudicate on all cases of instant triple talaq across the country. As per the draft bill, a husband who resorts to this practice of instant triple talaq can face imprisonment up to 3 years and can be fined. Triple talaq in any form, be it oral, written, or electronic form through a social media platform or through a messenger platform like WhatsApp. It has been banned and it has been made a cognizable offence. And more importantly, this proposed legislation also provides for a subsistence allowance for a harassed Muslim woman or her dependent children, and it also bestows the right of custodial rights of minor children on the mother or on the woman. So the government is pushing with this critical bit of legislation. They intend to introduce this particular legislation in the ongoing winter session. We are given to understand that this legislation may not be tabled or introduced in Parliament in the coming week, but probably in the week after that. And before this session wraps up on January 5th, we are surely going to see the introduction of this particular bill inside the Parliament, and probably some time would also be allocated for a detailed discussion before it can be taken up for consideration and passing.
Right. For those of our viewers, Raghvendra, stay with me a second. Just for our viewers who are joining in, the big story we're tracking right now is the Indian government, which has cleared a bill that will make the practice of Muslim men uttering the word talaq 3 times over for an instant divorce. They plan on making this a criminal offence. The Muslim women's bill comes after the recent Supreme Court verdict which banned the practice of instant divorce. The bill proposes a 3-year jail term for guilty husbands. It will be introduced in Parliament and the government intends to get the statute passed in the current winter session, which began earlier today. Now, let me get back to my colleague Raghvendra Rao, who's with us on the phone line for more on that story. The bill itself, Raghvendra, we know for a fact that the BJP has really put its entire weight behind this issue and now, of course, intends on getting it passed in Parliament. What sort of support do you think it's going to gather from other parties?
Yeah, that opens up a very interesting scenario, Aisha, because, for any political party worth its salt, it would be very difficult for them to oppose this kind of a legislation, which is reformative in nature. It sets to correct an age-old practice, which was being seen as a malpractice, which was causing immense harm to Muslim women and was such a source of harassment and anguish to the Muslim women community. And that is why it will be very interesting how the opposition parties react or take on the government on this particular legislation. One thing is for sure, while the political parties may not be able to oppose the very idea of criminalizing triple talaq,
right,
but they would want to find loopholes in the proposed legislation